Hello guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia and in today's video we are going to be tracking our expenses for the month of January. So if you watched my previous budget video that I set at the beginning of the month, then you will know that this is essentially what we have been doing for the past few months. And so what we're going to be doing is just evaluating our spending, seeing what happened after we actually set our budget, and yeah, just having a look to see if there were any areas we may be underspent or overspent on. And as a quick reminder, I am still doing weekly YouTube lives on my channel, so these are really topics that are focused on personal finance, and they're pretty much like mini trainings as well. So make sure you do check them out because we've been focusing on your financial goals, budgeting, saving money, and in the last week of January we're also going to be focusing on investing. So make sure you are subscribed to my channel so you don't miss out, because I will be doing my last weekly live this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. GMT, and if you're interested, definitely check out the other lives that I've been doing as well. So those will be linked in the description below for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there on Sunday. But without further ado, let's get to it and see how we did in the month of January. So of course, here is our budget template, as I tend to use every single month. Remember, you can also access this as well. So if you are interested in getting a template, which also includes a net worth statement and a sinking funds calculator, plus the choice between either a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template, you can of course do that. So those links will be in the description below for you. If we take a quick look at the income, so I'm not going to dabble on this too much because I did mention that in our budget update video, which I set for January. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. I will link that up here for you and in the description below. But essentially, we did have some money from the previous month just because we were basically ill for most of that month, so we didn't end up spending that much. So we carried that over to January, which actually really helped because January is always a little bit of a tough month, mainly because when we get paid, it's usually maybe before Christmas, and then it takes longer until the next paycheck. And so we carried that money over. It's also worth noting as well, if you don't know, that I currently do not have my 9-to-5 job anymore, so I don't have that consistent income anymore, whereas my husband does actually have a 9-to-5 job, and so the majority of his money comes from his salary, but I do currently take some money out of my business as well. And then moving over to savings and investments, so of course you can see that is blank, and again I did mention that in my video as well. There were quite a few changes, and I had also actually used some of my business money to invest in coaching programs. So we did do a bit of investing when it comes to my coaching programs, but the reason why it's just not on the budget is because I paid for it separately through my business rather than actually paying it out through my own personal finances. So that's why it's kind of blank here. That is probably going to remain the same probably for the next month as well, I would say. So you'll probably see that this will be blank on our budget for a couple of months. So in terms of saving and investments, it is blank for now, which is very, very strange considering how much we used to put into our savings and investments. But of course, that's just because different things are happening. My husband is also changing his job as well. So hopefully after that, it will start to stabilize. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, it's free. And then once again, when it comes to our essential bills, again, I'm not going to dwell on this too much because these are pretty much fixed costs and they're always the same pretty much every single month. So you can see that everything was pretty much all paid out. Again, with essential bills, it's one of the priority areas. There's no way you won't pay your essential bills, well, at least for us anyway. So that was pretty much paid out. And once again, in terms of our tithes, charity and giving, that is also something we will still continue to do regardless of the level of income that we have. So even though we may not be saving as much money, we will still give a proportion of our income. So that is definitely non-negotiable, and of course that was paid out too. And then a quick look at sinking funds. As you can see, sinking funds is currently blank. We do have quite a lot of sinking funds currently, so at the moment we're not needing to put as much money into sinking funds, but as we progress throughout the year, we will definitely want to start thinking about how much we want to add on to sinking funds. Again, if you don't know what sinking funds are, they're pretty much expenses that you will save up for over time. So I do actually have a video that talks about sinking funds in a bit more detail, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. Now moving over to the most exciting part and the area I know you guys are most interested in. We want to see how we did when it came to our general spending for the month. Now when it comes to spending, I will say it's a little bit easier for us because we already have quite a good system. So we already prioritize our savings, investments and our essential bills most of the time. Obviously not considering the last couple of months, although we did still technically invest money. But what I'm trying to say is that we essentially have a system where things are prioritized. So it means that we can spend the rest of the money, and even if we do overspend in some areas, it honestly doesn't matter. So if that's something that you're also looking to do, then definitely check out my free money management guide, because I give some really good tips in terms of the steps that I took to actually manage my money well and create a budget that really works for me. So of course I will link that up here for you and in the description below. But in terms of our spending budget, let's first start off with petrol. Now, if you guys also have followed us for a couple of months now, you will see that petrol has just been, it's just been a bit strange, because every time we would do a budget for petrol, we would end up spending more because petrol prices kept increasing. And so what we did this month is we decided to increase our petrol budget. So at the moment we have increased it to 130. And in terms of how much we ended up spending so far, I will say so far because we do have a couple of days left over till the end of the month, but at the moment we have spent £109 on petrol, which is maybe around $145. So actually it's less than we anticipated. We may end up using maybe £5 to £10 this week just to top up the petrol until payday, but at the moment 109 is what we've spent, so I'm quite proud of that. And then next up is groceries. So we actually had a budget for £165 for groceries, and that's around $222, I believe. And in terms of how much we actually ended up spending, we ended up spending £164, which is maybe like $220. So £1 less. And actually we were going to use that £1 to buy cucumber, because when we went to Aldi they didn't have any cucumber left, so we'll probably end up spending the full 165, but so far we've spent 164. And again, we don't really need to go shopping for anything else apart from the cucumber, because we bought hummus and we need cucumber with that. So I'm gonna say that we've pretty much spent 165 for this month, which is pretty much bang on, because on average it meant that we were only spending about 33 a week, particularly because again there were 5 weeks between the next payday rather than 4, because usually we'll budget around 34 weeks. So I'm pretty happy with that progress, and again that's probably around $44. I know that I do get a lot of questions in terms of how I've been able to stick to my food budget, so I do actually have videos where I talk about hacks that I've been able to do to actually save money on food without me trying to starve and feel restricted, because I will let you know that we do definitely have some righteous meals at home, don't worry about that. So if you haven't checked those videos out, of course I will link that up here for you and in the description below. So let's move over to toiletries. So we tend to budget around 30 for toiletries, and that didn't change this month. And in terms of how much we ended up spending in toiletries, we spent £28, which is around $37. So we had a little bit of change left, which was good. And then when it came to our individual spending, so as many of you may know that myself and my husband, we allocate 100 towards our own personal spending, so we can literally do whatever we want with that money. And so that's around maybe $134. And essentially we never really question whether we've actually used up the money, but from my perspective I pretty much did use up all the money, just because it was my birthday this month, so I was going out quite a lot and obviously had to pay for travel and may have had to pay for food and things like that. So yeah, I had a good time, definitely have no regrets there, so all good. And then moving over to date night. So with date night we actually did leave the house, so we did go to a restaurant. However, we ended up getting a discount at the restaurant because of where my husband works, so it means we didn't end up paying as much money as we thought we were going to. So that was quite a nice surprise. And so with date night we ended up spending around £57, which is around $75, and we also got a couple of takeaways with that as well. So in terms of our date night, we also sometimes include takeaways in that, so that was our restaurants and takeaways, which was good. And also we actually went to the cinema as well, so we did quite a lot of activities actually, which was good. But yeah, essentially we didn't end up spending as much as we thought we would. So again, I think I will probably evaluate how much we want to maybe put into our date nights, because we don't tend to spend so much on our date nights anyway, so it might be worth actually allocating the money into something else. And then next up was personal care. So originally we had budgeted 40 for personal care, and we've only ended up spending 20 for personal care. So again, I think that money will probably just be carried on till next month, so that was all good. And then when it came to the dentist, we're actually going to be going to the dentist today on the day that I'm recording this. So I've allocated $47.60 because I believe that is how much we should be paying for both of us to go to the dentist. The only other question is whether we may actually have to pay for something else, if like we need to get fillings or anything like that. That's going to be another conversation, so we'll see. But in terms of the checkup, I'm hoping it should be $47.60. So of course I will update you guys in my next budget update, especially if we find out there are other things we might need to pay for. And then the rest of the money we had actually paid for pennies, but as you can see in my budget, there was an area that we actually ended up overspending in, and that was miscellaneous. So we hadn't originally allocated any money into miscellaneous for this month. We will do that usually, but I think because we had to pay for the dentist, I kind of took miscellaneous off. But we ended up spending money because we did end up having to go Wilkinson's and buy things like a new wok and just different things for the flat. And so we ended up spending about £23 when it comes to miscellaneous, and so that's around $31. So hadn't actually been planned stand in the budget. So again, that's why I always say, you know, your budget's not always going to be crystal clean. Things can change, things can adapt. But as you can see, even though we did buy a few things, we were still able to stick to the budget overall. So you can see in terms of the spending category, we ended up spending about £651, which is around $877. But you can also see that we did have some money left over. So we underspent by around £33. So even though things do come unexpected, like we had miscellaneous to pay for, that doesn't necessarily matter, because usually there are some areas where, again, we will underspend and some areas that we will overspend. And so for me personally, I'm not too bothered if I overspend in some areas or some things crop up, because I know that things just tend to balance out anyway, and we're still able to stick to our budget. So if you do really feel like you struggle with sticking to your budget and you maybe need help or support with that, then make sure you do check out my one-to-one coaching program, because that's essentially what I will help you do. I'll help you figure out what you actually need to prioritize, but also help you figure out a budget that works for you, that doesn't feel so restricting as well. So if you are interested, feel free to book a free interest call for me. I will link more information up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, how did your January budget go? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Friday.